Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. If I film any earlier in the day, it's going to still be dark. Nice surprise in my mailbox this morning. I've got a reply from the guy I bought the Dendrobium Victoria Regina from, or what isn't Victoria Regina. Yeah, VC, VR it is not. But he basically said that that is unacceptable. Basically, he was supplied in good faith with that plant and he sold it on in good faith. So he's offered me a prepaid label so that I can send it back. I haven't replied to the email yet because I'll have to explain that since getting it, it's obviously come out of the pot and been mounted on a piece of cork. So it's not going to look like the plant he gave me in the first place. But I can let him know where he can see the video of me getting it out of the box, and if he wants, see the video of me taking it out of the pot and putting it on a mount. So I've got evidence, that it is his plant. I don't think it's going to come to that. But yeah, so basically he's going to pay for the postage for me to send it back and give me a full refund. So that's my bit done. And then he's going to have a right go at the supplier that he got it from and get his money back, basically, which probably isn't going to be anywhere near as much as the money I want back. But yeah, I would say that's a more than satisfactory result. It's more the attitude than the result. The attitude was, from his point of view, this is totally unacceptable. I will put it right for you. Now that's good. No hesitating, no ifing and butting and well maybe and after all this time. None of that. Just straight out with it. I will sort it out for you. So that is good news. I suppose from some points of view it is a bit of a shame because these are beautiful blooms. There's no doubt. Oh, that's probably blurred at this time of day. I've got no daylight in here. They are beautiful blooms. There's no doubt about it. But it's not what I bought, and it's not what I want. If I'd seen this plant with these blooms for sale, I wouldn't have bought it. So but nonetheless, they are attractive. See, now, a lot of people would have said, well, why didn't you put that in the virtual competition? Because I haven't owned it long enough. At that Orchid Society, you have to have owned the plant a year. So, it does limit things. Especially if you're constantly throwing things away because they're dead and buying new stuff in. There is a bit of that goes on, of course. So, yeah, and I'll apologise for the rant, especially to one individual, because it was misleading, because they thought I was talking about them when I wasn't. That just goes to show that sometimes you shouldn't make assumptions. I'll let you know what fired that off, basically. My mum's 90th birthday is coming up soon, well, end of August, so relatively soon. At 90th, this is a big deal. And one of my sisters has decided to pull out of organising it, or helping to organise it, because it doesn't seem safe. And yeah, that fired me off. It's like I said, there comes a point where you've just got to, you take a risk walking outside your front door, even if there wasn't a flipping virus. You get in your car and drive up the motorway at bloody 70 miles an hour. Don't you think that's a risk? But we still do it. There's a risk in everything you do. There's a risk in me standing here. The roof could fall in. There comes a point where you just have to let go a bit. And that was one of those times where the extra glass of wine perhaps wasn't such a good idea. So if it upset anybody, I do apologise. But things can be misleading. Assumptions can be made that a person is talking about one thing when in fact they're talking about something entirely different, and yet it could sound exactly the same. So anyway, so that's that. And a result. So now I've got to find a box that will fit in, which is a long skinny one. It is a long skinny one, isn't it? Yeah, long skinny one, isn't it? Doesn't need to be wide at all. So my spare bedroom is nearly full of cardboard boxes now. It's a thing I've got about collecting cardboard boxes, because occasionally I post an orchid out. That's not the real reason. One day I'm going to have to move out of this house and I'm going to have to pack everything. So I'm collecting boxes in preparation for should that happen one day, which it will one day. Yeah, one thing I did notice on this is the end of that cane stopped growing and turned yellow. Now, this is a deciduous orchid at the end of the day. You know, I mean, the blooms are on a leafless cane, so they do go eventually. It's just that most of the dendrobiums I've had in the past tend to lose their leaves from the base towards the tip, and the last leaves to go are the ones on the end, not the first ones. But then that's only got a couple of leaves on it anyway, that cane. In fact, that's it. There's just that little cluster on the end and one. So it has gone towards the end. So, ooh, phew, thought I had a problem then. But anyway, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's not what I bought. Even if the plant isn't in as good a condition as it was when I was sold it, that becomes irrelevant on the grounds that it was missold. So the guy's happy to have it back. So I will try and get that sorted. Better reply to the email, didn't I? Another coffee first. Need more coffee. Especially after last night. Definitely had. I don't normally do that. Normally I have my glass of wine with my meal, and then I'll top that up to sit down for the evening, and that's it. Unfortunately, we started the wine in the middle of the afternoon, so by the time we got to our evening meal, half of it had already gone. So, yeah, we did have a bit too much last night. That is attractive, isn't it? Nonetheless, it's not what I want. So, and I don't want to keep it. That would be silly. You know, that money, when refunded, can go towards the real thing. Oh, and as far as my trip to Burnham's is concerned, the only day left today, this week, would be today, and I'm not going today, so it'll be next week now sometime. Sarah hasn't got back to me anyway, so I don't know whether I've got a piece of Victoria Regina yet. I need to speak to Sarah before that gets confirmed one way or the other, and I'm a little reluctant to do the journey there and back without coming home with that plant, so I'm working on it, so that'll be next week now. She's only opening weekdays at the moment. She's not opening weekends, so there wouldn't be a choice. And I wouldn't go at a weekend day anyway, because it'll be a lot busier. And then we go back to the risk element. You know, the more people that are in there, the higher the risk, obviously. So ideal for me would be to walk in the door and I'm the only person there apart from Sarah who can keep her flipping distance. Anyway, that's next week now. And I've also got a field trip that it's in the planning stage, but I found another place. It's strange. It's a place I know well. It's up near where I used to live. And the kids used to accept getting up before it was daylight on a Sunday morning and taking the car into this forest to see the deer. Because if you park the car and turn your lights off, the deer will walk right up to the car. They take no notice of you as long as you don't get out. So it's a place I know well, but there's a lot of orchid types there that I've never thought I would ever be able to see, let alone in one place. And if I choose a day when there's some reasonable weather, we might even see some of the forest butterflies, because it is an ancient forest. So that's part one of the trip, and the second part is a hilltop. So chalk grassland basically for another set of orchids. So try and combine the two in a day. They're not far apart. The two places aren't that far apart, but it's a reasonable distance to go from here. Same distance as the last field trip, except for its tiny little roads. That's the difference. It will take nearly twice as long. But I'll take some food, get myself some sandwiches so that I can stop somewhere and have something to eat without going in anywhere to get food. And we'll see if we can get that done next week. It's weather dependent because I'm combining orchids and butterflies. If it was just orchids, I could get there at 6 o'clock in the morning and do my photography and everything would be fine. But not butterflies. So what I might actually do is do the downland site first at the crack of dawn, when I've got the lower light levels and everything, which makes photographing orchids a lot nicer. And then perhaps move on to the forest site later in the day, because the butterflies will be flying later in the day at that site. Now there are some butterflies at the first site, the downland site, but nothing I haven't seen before. That's the difference. Some of the forest butterflies I've either never seen or not for a very, very long time. So that's the potential field trip. 2 sites in a day, probably 2 separate videos as well. But we'll see how that goes. It is weather dependent, but it does sound like the weather's not going to be too bad next week. So I'd prefer not to have a baking hot day, but then, without the sunshine and some warmth, the butterflies won't fly. So combination of the two, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we have a result on this. So I'll get the email sent off. And I'll need a couple of interactions with the email, because as I said, I've got to explain that this is now out of its pot and on a mount, because that's how I wanted to grow it. And providing that's all okay, then I can get it all. I'll need the returns label. That'll be fun too, because my printer's iffy, but I'll have to print it out. Or find somebody else I can email it to, and they can print it out. I'll get that sorted. That's not a big deal. And then get that posted off, probably put it in the post Monday morning. That way I know it won't take long. But it's a UK seller, so it's only got to do a UK postage. And so that's only a couple of days in the post. That'll be fine. Give that moss a good soaking before it goes, and yeah, that'll be fine. So see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.